Tyrannies know that they can only succeed in suppressing their people if the outside world remains silent and turns a blind eye to the slaughter of their citizens. For this reason, they need friends and allies to do their window dressing for the outside world. Friends and allies that Lenin and Stalin referred to as useful idiots in the West. Today, I want to talk to you about an organization in the US called National Iranian American Council, or NIAC for short. NIAC was started by Trita Parsi. His father, an Iranian communist, had fled the Islamic Republic of Iran with his family to Sweden. So Trita was brought up in Sweden and saw very little of Iran. He can hardly speak Persian.
ولی امریکا کی اکتر نیست در این تئاتر، در این استیج. خود جنبش سبز خود مردم ایرانه که تصمیم گیر هستند و خود انجین این موومنت هستند.
He then left Sweden for the US to study foreign policy. In 2002, he founded NIAC, a well-funded organization which is despised by most Iranians who can see through their real aim, which is appeasing the Islamic Republic and reducing the international pressure on the regime. Over the years, NIAC has learned how to appeal to the good-hearted and well-intentioned but gullible people in America, including the second generation of Iranian expats. Amongst NIAC's pursuits is to remove the sanctions against the regime which are intended to force the Ayatollahs in Iran to change their repressive measures at home and have less cash for their destabilizing policies in the region. To appeal to the good nature of their audience, NIAC has often used emotional blackmail by claiming sanctions against Iran are creating a medicine shortage there and patients are dying because of sanctions. Yet the truth is that humanitarian aid, food, medicine and medical equipment are excluded from sanctions.
As the United States places tough sanctions on your ruling regime, it's important for the Iranian people to know that the sale of food, medicine, medical devices, and agricultural commodities to Iran are not and have never been sanctioned.
And it is not just me saying this, but even the Iranian health minister at the time, Marzieh Dastjerdi, and a number of Iranian health officials have said the medicine shortages in Iran have nothing to do with sanctions. The real problem is mismanagement and embezzlement. For example, £2 billion of foreign currency intended to import medicine was instead spent on importing cosmetic goods and luxury goods, even luxury cars. Since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, many countries have suffered terribly, some more than others, depending on how it's been managed. One of those countries badly affected is sadly Iran. And NIAC have once again taken the opportunity to blame sanctions for the failure to control and manage the pandemic in Iran.
My aunt is a doctor in Iran and sees firsthand the massive shortages in hospitals of medical supplies and equipment. And doctors are dying in Iran for this reason. US sanctions plays a major role in this.
In my own particular case, I am extremely worried for my mother, a 66-year-old woman who lives in southern Iran. In 2017, my family and I lost my father to the US imposed sanctions on Iran when we couldn't procure him the drugs that he needed to survive.
And as such, I worry every day as to whether or not my family in Iran will have proper access to testing kits, medical supplies, and hygienic equipment to be able to combat the coronavirus epidemic.
Yet their propaganda effort for their political agenda was shattered, this time by none other than the supreme leader of Iran himself. In a speech to commemorate the start of the revolution against the Shah and speaking to the seminary students in Qom, he explicitly banned any import of US or UK made vaccines and later included French made vaccines too. Following the speech by the Supreme Leader, the spokesperson for Iran's Red Crescent said the order for 150,000 doses of the vaccine was also cancelled, proving once again that medicine and vaccines can be imported to Iran and NIAC is not telling the truth. Thanks to the Supreme Leader, NIAC have egg on their face again. And to top it all, more than 100,000 Iranian Americans have signed a petition to say that NIAC do not represent them.